This is the animation that we're going to recreate in this video. It is from an Ali Abdaal video which got over 1.7 million views at the time of recording, and in my opinion it's super cool. As you can see, his webcam shrinks on the right side of the screen with a glowing outline, and on the left side of the screen we have a title, which in this case is balance. We have the sentence which describes what Ali Abdaal is saying and what he actually means, and on the right side we have an animating icons, which in our case is a setting with some arrows moving. He does that 3 times for the 3 points he's talking about, and the last one is the enjoy with the rocket, which moves and is animated. And once that happens, as you can see, there is a second part of the animation where the webcam once again becomes larger on the top part of the screen, and then we have 3 icons on the bottom, which are the wheel of life, the 12-month celebration, and the ideal week method. And once that goes away, once again the webcam becomes big and fills the entire screen. So that's what we're going to recreate in today's video, and we're going to start by gathering assets. Also, you can find the project file and all of the assets for free in the description, so check it out. So let's start gathering the assets by looking for the first icon on the top left, which was something like a line chart. So I'll go ahead and look it in Canva because that's one of my favorite websites, and I think this one looks pretty good. What I'll take from this image is the arrow, this one above, and I'll create the rest in After Effects. Next, I need a gear, and for a gear I'll look for something like this with the empty inside, as you can see, so that I will be able to separate the inside from the outside. And then I will need a curved arrow, so let's go ahead and find it right here. Probably something shorter like this would be better, so I'll use something like this, as you can see. And then we need a rocket. Go ahead and type also outline so that I can find what I'm looking for, and I think this one looks good, so I'll go ahead and drag this in, and we'll of course cut this part out later on. Now for the wheel of life, I've gone ahead and looked for a dart target which is really similar to what Ali had, and I found this one, which is pretty good. And now we need a calendar, so I've gone ahead and looked for daily calendar right here in the search bar, and I found this one, which is not the same one as Ali has used, but I think it gets the point across pretty well. So I'll go ahead and use this one. Now I will export this into After Effects. We are now on After Effects. Let's go ahead and create a 1920 by 1080 composition on, which is a 16:9 aspect ratio. I'll go with 30 FPS, and I'll go with a duration of around 35 seconds, which should be enough. So let's go ahead and click OK, and now I'll go ahead and drag in my reference, which is this one. I'll use this right here as my background, which is pretty similar to Ali's one. It's the same style basically. I'll drag it above and hide it for now, and then I can go ahead and start animating. Firstly, we'll need an A-roll speaking, as you can see right here. Since we do not have one, we'll use a still image from Ali, which is going to be this one, and we'll pretend this is a moving video, although it isn't in our case. So what I'll do is I'll click Ctrl D to duplicate this, and then I will right click on time and freeze frame, so that as you can see throughout the whole timeline we will have this still frame. So I'll go ahead and drag it on top, and what we'll do now is we'll hide this, and we'll go ahead and start placing some keyframes. So let's go ahead and check when does the first animation start. It's exactly here, where as you can see the webcam starts to become smaller. So let's go ahead and click the asterisk. You can see all of the shortcuts on the bottom left, as you can see, and as you can see that's going to place a marker. We'll go at the end of the animation right here, and we'll go ahead and click another asterisk, and then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and create a text layer right here, which is going to be progress. I'll choose Helvetica bold as our font, my text, perfect. And then I'll scale this to something like 190. I'll make this larger, and as you can see we have basically the same size right here. Then I'll go at the start, and as you can see it starts exactly here. I'll go on P for position and T for opacity. I'll drag the opacity to 0, and then I'll go forward until the animation ends, which is exactly here, and I'll drag the opacity to 100 and the position to exactly here. And actually I'll go at the start and make sure that the opacity is actually 0. So now as you can see, it goes down just like so. I want the text to be a bit more to the right, just like so. So I'll copy this value and paste it here as well. And now as you can see, we have this, and then the progress text is going to move once again from here. So I'll click another keyframe on position to exactly here. And it's going to act like if it was bumped by this icon, as you can see. So then now we have our text moving just like so. Perfect. The animation does not look as smooth as Ali's one because we'll have to play with the keyframe animations, but we'll do this at the end. Now I just want to recreate the scene and place all of the keyframes. So now what we want to do is recreate this text. To do that, I'll go ahead and get my text tool. And as you can see, I'll simply type the same text as Ali. And then what I'll do is I will highlight the first part and I will change this to the regular Helvetica font. As you can see, we have this highlighted part as Ali Abdaal, as you can see. So I'll go back to the start, which is exactly here. I'll go on T, click a keyframe, P, click a keyframe, and then I'll click on U to see both of the keyframes, and I'll go at the end, which is exactly here, and I'll drag the position here and the opacity to 100, and here I'll drag this above, and then I will put the opacity to 0, so that now we have this drop down effect. A quick thing is that I want to copy this X position just like so that it comes down vertically, which is perfect. And now what we want to do is go ahead and recreate the icon before we create the 3D effect. So let's go ahead and recreate that icon by first hiding these text layers for now. Then I'll go ahead and zoom into the icon. I'll make sure to go right here when it starts moving, so exactly here. Here is where the 3D movement starts. So what I'll do is I will firstly drag this thing right here, which is going to be our chart. I will go on the pen tool and I will only take our arrow. I do not care about the charts. I do not care about the squares because we'll have to recreate them manually. Now I'll reduce the size just like so to something like 60. I'll put the rotation to something like -2, and then what I'll do is I'll move this downwards a bit, and now I'll start recreating all of this stuff. So let's go ahead and go on the rectangle tool, make sure that we have no layers selected, and then I'll create a simple rectangle. Now let's go ahead and position it so that it's wide enough. Now we have to position it in such a way that the bottom, the left, and the right part of the rectangle are in the right spot. So the first thing that I want to do is increase the stroke to something like 18 so that it's more like our reference, something like this. And then I'll go on rectangle path and round this to something like 5, which is perfect. I'll drag it below, just like so. And now that we have this, I'll go ahead and click on Ctrl D, and then just click on P for position and move it to the right, like so. Ctrl D, P, and move it to the right. And I'll do the same for this one, and then I'll rename this. Once I've done that, I'll go ahead and click on the rectangle tool once again, and I'll create another rectangle. I'll round this to something like 20, and then I'll go ahead and create all of the lines. So I'll go on the pen tool, I will click a point right here, and by holding shift I'll click another one right here, and then I will round everything. To round the end of the line, you just need to open the window properties panel and you'll find all of the settings right here. If you can't find them, you can simply go on shape, content, stroke, and you'll find them right here. Once we have done that, I'll unselect my layers and I'll do the same once again. I'll round everything, and then I'll do the same for this one right here. So what we'll need to do now is go ahead and create an animation which is going to allow us to, as you can see, move our bars up and down like in the reference. Now to do that, we'll go at the start of the animation, we'll go on the first rectangle, which is the one on the left, we'll click on contents and we'll go on the rectangle path, we'll unlink the size and click on 2 keyframes on position and size. And what we'll do is go on the first rectangle, click a keyframe on position and size, and also unlink the size. And now we'll go 6 frames forward and we'll decrease the size and move the position so that it becomes small like this, and then going forward it becomes bigger until something like this, so the size is going to increase and the position is going to move upwards. And once this happens, what we simply need to do is go ahead and count these frames, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then we'll simply space these keyframes by, let's say, 20 frames. And then we'll copy these, and then we'll go 20 frames, and then we'll copy and go 20 frames, 20 frames, 20 frames, until it goes out of the screen, which is right here. So from right here we won't need the animation anymore. Now we'll go back at the start, exactly here, and then we'll go on the second rectangle. And as you can see, the rectangles are going up and down. We'll ease all of the keyframes later. For now, this is what we have, which is perfect. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and select all of our layers and we'll pre-compose them. And we'll call it first icon. So that now we have our pre-composition. We can enable our text now. And now what we can do is go ahead and highlight all of our icons here, and we'll pre-compose them and we'll call this first icon. And now what we'll do is we'll enable our reference layer and we'll check when does this appear. So as you can see here, it starts. So I'll go and click on opacity and scale around 110 on scale, and then it's going to, and now before moving forward and actually moving the scale, what we'll need to do is go ahead and center our anchor point in the middle of this thing, so that if I now scale it up, it's going to scale around the center of our image. Perfect. So I'll go ahead and go forward until here, and I'll click 110, and here it's going to go back to 100. And here it's going to be on 0, and right here the opacity is going to be 100. Well, let's start, it's going to be 0. So if I now go ahead and play this, as you can see, they're going to scale up in the same way as the reference, which is perfect. So if I now go ahead and play our animation from the start, we'll have this, the progress, these moves, and as you can see, everything is moving perfectly. Now, quick thing before moving forward is that we need to create this cropping animation. So we'll go ahead and do that right now. As you can see, I've placed keyframes before for this animation. So I'll go ahead and do this right away by going on effects and presets, and dragging the crop effect and the roughen edges effect. So what I'll do is I will increase the edge sharpness to the max, remove the fractal influence, remove the border, hit a keyframe on the border right here, and then go right here and hit another keyframe on around 150 right here. Then I'll go back to the start, and what I'll do is I will have to fix this crop effect. First thing that I will do is remove this thing, which is the first crop effect, and then by holding Alt or Option if you're on Mac, I will click on the stopwatches so that the crop effect can actually work, just like so. And now I can go ahead and hit a keyframe on 0, keyframe on 0, keyframe on 0, and keyframe on 0, and keyframe on 0 right here as well. And then I'll go at the end and I will hit keyframe on 5, keyframe on 5, keyframe on 30, and keyframe on 30, and keyframe on 30. And as you can see, we now have this thing right here. And then I'll actually enable the background. I'll go at the start, scale, keyframe, position, keyframe, go at the end. I'll click on U so that I can see all of my keyframes. And I'll simply scale this down to around 70 and move it on the right side. And as you can see, and if I now enable my reference, I can check how big, and if I now enable my reference, I can check if my position is correct. I actually need to scale this down a bit more and position this to the right, and also crop this a bit more. So let's try with 32. This looks better now. If I now zoom, as you can see here, the difference is minimal, the square is basically the same. So the effect that we end up having is this one right here, with the cropping happening just like so, and everything appearing on screen. Now something that I quickly need to stylize is to use a tint effect on everything. And how I'll use the tint effect is I will simply go ahead and choose the color to this blue right here, and I will copy the effect on the text and the icon, so that now if I enable my layers, as you can see, everything is of the same blue used by Ali. Now a quick thing that I want to do is go ahead and use this blue for my icon and my progress text. So I'll go ahead and look for this effect called tint and use the pick whip color to choose the blue icon used by Ali, and I'll drag this also on the progress. So that if I now enable my animation, as you can see, this is what we have, which is perfect. Now the second text that we want to add is the balance text, as you can see. So to do that, I'll simply duplicate my progress text, I'll enable it. So what we want to do now is go ahead and create the rest of the animation below. To do that, we'll need to start animating with the 3D effect. So let's go ahead and create a new null object, and I'll call it 3D animator. And then I will link the text, the icon and the other text to my 3D animator, so that now, as you can see, whatever I do to this null is going to affect both my icon, my text and everything. So we'll go right here where the 3D animation is starting, and we'll click on this button right here, which is going to allow us to have this 3D effect, as you can see. So what we'll do now is go on the transform settings and place a bunch of keyframes, and as you can see now, we can animate just like Ali did in this direction. And now if I enable our animation, we can go ahead and see that we have the 3D effect basically in the same way as Ali. And then from right here, a second effect is going to happen, which is, as you can see, it's going to go up and turn the other way around. The movement stops around here, and as you can see, the rotation is going to be in this other way, and the position is going to be up, as you can see. So that now if I go ahead and play our text, as you can see, we have this, then it moves upwards and it leaves space to create our second part, which is going to be the balance. Okay, so currently this is what we have. As you can see, we have our animation, which is going flawlessly from the start to the end. As you can see, we have all of the traits that were used by Ali Abdaal. Now we just need to add some final touches to finish this animation. As you can see, everything is done perfectly until here. Once again, we'll ease all of the keyframes and make the animation smooth at the end. For now, let's just focus on placing all of the keyframes, which are still a lot. Here I have my 3D animator. These 17 layers at the top of my timeline are just these small things that I've done right here. I've simply duplicated layers. So this was the 3D animator, which was moving everything. And we're going to use it once again, because at this time in the animation, if I go ahead and solo Ali Abdaal's layer, as you can see, what happens is that everything goes up and his A roll becomes just like so, wider. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's firstly identify when does this happen, which is exactly here. I'll enable the background, then I will go in the 3D animator and enable a keyframe on everything. And then I will actually check the animation to see when does it end, which is here, and the animation ends here. So here is when everything is up. So let's go ahead and do that and go on the position and move everything up just like so. And I want to make sure to link the rocket and the enjoy. So for the enjoy, I will need to link this null to the 3D animator. I have used this null to just create some animation on the enjoy text at the start. As you can see here, it moves twice. So I've used a null. And now I'll just link the null to the other null, so that as you can see, once the keyframes go up, the enjoy is going to go up as well. And then I'll do the same for the rocket. Once again, the rocket, I've used a rocket mover here, just another null object. So I'll simply link the null to the null, so that as you can see, the rocket right here is going to go up as well. Perfect. I actually need to move it a bit higher, otherwise the rocket is not going to disappear. Perfect. And then go ahead and use a fade animation, which as you can see is present from Ali. As you can see, everything fades with some opacity keyframes. So it's these three things. So I'll go on the rocket at the start of the animation, which is here. I'll click a keyframe on opacity, and then I'll go right here at the end and I'll put it at 0. And then I'll copy both of these keyframes, go at the start, and then go on the enjoy, copy them, and then I need to go on this text right here and do the same, so that now once I enable my text, as you can see, it's going to disappear as well. Perfect. Now another quick thing that I'll do before moving forward is go on the progress and copy my tint effect, and I will want to paste it on the rocket and then on all of these shape layers, which are, as you can see, the rocket fire right here. And then I will also want to paste it on the gear, and the gear is going to be here, 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 and here. Perfect. And now if I play these from the start, everything is going to be blue like in the original Ali Abdaal's animation, which is perfect. So what I need to do now is I'll go on the 3D animator to check when was my animation starting, which is here. And that's where I'll go on my arrow, which is the Ali Abdaal tutorial. And I will click U to see my keyframes. And here we'll find my crop keyframes. I'll once again place a ton of keyframes for position, scale, crop, etc, etc. I'll go at the end of the animation, which is exactly here, and this time what I'll do is I will decrease this to around 3, and same here, and then I will move the position just like so on the left side to around 960, which is the exact center. I'll increase the scale to around 80, and then I'll move the position up, and then I'll shrink the top so that, as you can see, we can still see Ali's face. I'll drag this below, and now we have something really similar to the reference. Let's go ahead and check it out. The reference is actually a bit bigger, so let's go ahead and do that by decreasing how much it is cropped. And then also on the sides, instead of 3, let's do 2, and let's increase the scale to 90. Let's move it down, and as you can see, we now have a really similar effect. And now I can actually increase it even more. So let's go ahead and increase the size to 100. And now after some more adjustments, I think that the only thing that I need to change is how much the edges are rounded. Let's do something like 50. And as you can see now, they look way more similar. And now what I'll do is I'll simply make the last 3 squares pop. So to do that, I'll simply create a square. So to create those squares, I'll simply unselect all of the layers, create a square, remove the stroke, choose a fill, and then I'll go on rectangle and round the corners to something like 25. I will center it, and then I'll simply duplicate it 3 times. And then I'll simply create 3 text, copy the tint effect in all of them so that I have the same blue. And then I'll go ahead and paste in my icons, which we have gotten before. Now that I have my squares with the icons, what I'll do is I'll pre-compose the square, the text, and the icon, so that, as you can see, this is what's going to happen. And I'll do the same for the calendar and the text. And now what I can do is I can simply go ahead and time the squares. So as you can see, this one starts to appear here. So let's go ahead and go on the position of this, drag it below, and then let's go forward until here, which is where it stops. And I'll drag it up. And now I'll go backwards, hit a keyframe on the calendar, drag it below, and I'll just drag it above. And now if I show my animation from the start, you can see that everything is done. So what we will go ahead and do now is ease all of the keyframes to make the animation way smoother. So let's start by hitting the first layer, and then while holding shift, hitting the last layer, so that, as you can see, everything is highlighted here. And we'll click U to show all of the keyframes. Once you have done this, we'll highlight all of the keyframes which we have and we'll click F9. This is going to already make our animation feel way smoother.